right. Hey, folks. I'm Arun Ulagaratchagan. I run Azure Data. I'm really, really excited to be here. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have a packed 45 minutes, tons of exciting stuff. We recognize that AI is rapidly changing the world. And however, it is data that's the fuel that powers AI. So getting data ready for AI has become critically important for every organization. However, there's good news and bad news. The good news is there's been a lot of innovation in the data and AI space. The bad news is there's been a lot of innovation in the data and AI space because it's created a ton of fragmentation. This is the 2023 data and AI landscape slide. And every tiny icon on the slide is a product or technology in data and AI. And the burden is on you to figure all of this out. Which products to use, how to put them together, which products are even compatible so you can get all of the AI value that you're looking for. So when I talk to customers, the message I hear is consistently this. Please unify. I want to be the chief information officer. I don't want to be the chief integration officer. Help me unleash AI on my data estate. This is exactly what we're doing with Microsoft Fabric, where we're moving from one component to a unified stack, from a single database or a data warehouse to all of your data, from Gen AI needing to be manually wired in to Gen AI simply being built in. With Fabric, we're making 4 promises. The first is a complete analytics platform that gives you all of the tools that your data scientists, your data engineers, your data warehousing people, and your BI professionals need in a single unified SaaS platform. The second promise is we're making it lake-centric and open. We are excited to introduce OneLake, which is a single unified SaaS data lake for the entire organization. You can think about OneLake as OneDrive, but for your data. And with OneLake, we're natively embracing open source data formats based on Apache Parquet and Delta Lake, so you never have to be worried about being locked in to any one vendor. The third promise we're making is about empowering every business user, because what's the point of data sitting beautifully in your lake if nobody's using it? Right? That's why Power BI itself is a core part of Fabric. And all of the data in OneLake, all of the data in Fabric is natively integrated into all of the Office experiences. So it's built into Excel, it's built into Teams, it's built into PowerPoint, it's built into SharePoint. But it's not just the data that's built in, all the permissions flow end to end, so you can be sure that people are only working with the data they're supposed to see. And the fourth promise is about all the AI capabilities that are just built into Fabric. Every part of the Fabric experience has a built-in CoPilot that's accelerating your data journey. And because Fabric is end-to-end, it's not just about one component. With CoPilots, you can go from raw data to AI or insights in minutes. If you look at what's under the hood with Fabric, there are 7 core workloads. We're bringing together proven technologies like Azure Data Factory, Azure Synapse Analytics, and Power BI into a single unified SaaS experience. So within these workloads, you have purpose-built experiences for different personas, data scientists, data engineers, data warehousing people, but it's all a single unified SaaS experience, so your developers can work very closely together. Fabric is also really unified at the most fundamental level. It's a unified architecture, unified experience, unified governance, and a unified business model. So if you think about what we're doing with Fabric, the excitement for customers is just absolutely incredible. We just went to public preview just about a little more than 5 months ago, and we're blown away by the adoption we've seen for Fabric. Over 25,000 organizations around the planet are using Fabric today, including over 2/3 of the Fortune 500. And most of the customers really appreciate the end-to-end value proposition of Fabric because 84% of customers are using 3 or more workloads in Fabric. That's why I'm so excited to announce that Microsoft Fabric becomes generally available today, and you can run your production workloads. And even as we become GA, we're going to continue to innovate at a crazy pace. Every week, we release new features in the Fabric service. And every month, we roll up all of the features we release that month into a monthly blog for that particular month. And these blogs are 50 to 60 pages long, just to give you a sense of the level of innovation that we're shipping continuously in Fabric. And if you want to get a sense of where we're going with Fabric, we have transparently shared our roadmap publicly, so all of you can get a sense of all the great new capabilities that are going to ship in Fabric over the next 3 to 6 months. So to go much deeper into Fabric and show you some really exciting demos, I'm going to invite Amir Netz, Technical Fellow and CTO. Amir, take it away.
Isn't it exciting? And that's me, right? Yes, that's me. Okay, isn't it exciting? We are releasing Fabric today, and we're going to spend the next maybe 40 minutes, 35 minutes, just letting the product show itself, let the product do the talking. And we're going to start and do the tour going through the same 4 promises that Arun talked about. We start with the complete data platform, which is really the promise that you get everything you need for analytics, soup to nuts, everything unified, everything SaaSified. Arun showed that block diagram. Think about it. One product that does ETL with a data factory, does data engineering, data science, data warehousing, real-time analytics, BI, the data activator, all just a single product with single architecture, single experience, single governance, one thing to buy. And as we bring everything together, we really bring a lot of different personas together. We're bringing the BI analyst together with the data scientist and with the data engineer and with the data warehousing professional. And each one of them, we understand it's different. They spend the day differently. So what we do is we create different experiences for different people. So one system, different experiences. So if you are a BI analyst, then your experience will show the dashboard and reports in the center of your UI. If you are a data scientist, you'll see machine learning model and experiment. A data warehousing professional will see the data warehouse in the center. So different experiences, different kind of skins on a single system, and all these personas are working together. So let's try to see what it means to have a single product that is unified, that is SaaS, that has multiple experiences for multiple personas. And for this, I'm going to invite my friend Pat here to give us a rundown and show us how we build the first data warehouse in Fabric.
All right, thank you, Amir. Let's go ahead and take a look at the demo. All right, we're going to see how Fabric enables different types of data professionals to come together to get started quickly and collaborate on their data projects. And I'm starting out on the Power BI homepage, which is the ideal location for a BI analyst to build data sets and create reports. But Fabric offers a wide variety of different persona-centric experiences. So I'm going to switch over here to the data science experience, and I can see that the artifacts have changed to models and experiments and notebooks, and the suggested content is now focused on data science. But since I'm a data warehousing professional, I'm going to switch to the Synapse data warehousing workload. And let's create a new data warehouse. All I have to do is provide it a name and click Create. And just like that, I have a new data warehouse that's ready to use. I didn't have
seconds.
In seconds. And I didn't have to set up any networking, any storage accounts, any clusters. It's just ready to go. Now let's copy some data into the data warehouse. And to that, I'm going to create a new pipeline. So again, I just give it a name, and now I'm in the pipeline experience. And here I can choose from over 150 data connectors that are each going to be able to bring data in at petabyte scale. In this case, I'm going to click Azure SQL Database, select the tables that I want to use, configure the column mappings, and click Go. And that's all it takes. And now my data is copying into the system, and I can skip ahead a little bit, and now I've got all of that data loaded. And I'm inside of Fabric. I can use this beautiful UI. I can see my data. I can filter it down to Germany. But also, of course, I can write SQL queries as well. So I'm going to create a quick SQL query. And this is a great place to do all of my data work. And it caters to low-code and no-code users as well. We have a graphical interface for building queries. So I can just drag and drop the tables, configure the query I want to build, and do things like build complex joins right through the UI. So if I want to join my customers and orders table, I can do that right through this graphical interface. Now that I have my data all ready to go, I can put a rich semantic model on top of it, because we've brought Power BI together with the data warehouse. So this semantic model can be defined right here without even leaving this experience and requiring no copy of data. So it's going to sit right on top of my data warehouse and instantly query. I can define relationships, I can create measures, and once I get everything set up, with one click, I can now create a Power BI report. Again, all inside of the same user experience. So let's create a new Power BI report here. And I'm in the familiar Power BI experience running directly on that data warehouse data. I can drag and drop the same data I've been working with. And we can see that I have 500 million rows with blazing fast performance loaded here. And I can build out my full Power BI report as we all know how. Now, if I switch back to my Fabric workspace, you can see all of these artifacts coming together in one place. So all the different personas can collaborate. And if I switch to the lineage view, I can see how everything flows together. So as you've seen, we've dramatically simplified the process of creating an end-to-end data solution, allowing all these different personas to come together through one experience in Fabric to build these great projects.
And now everything just integrates, right? The data warehouse flows to the ETL, flows to the semantic modeling, and then flows to the Power BI reporting, all just one product, all unified. And that's just what we created in the first instance. But we're going to create more. To understand how we can create more, we need to dive a little bit into the architecture. We're going to talk about the second pillar here, which is the lake-centric and open. And this is really the data lake, which I'm going to introduce you as OneLake, is the beating heart of Fabric. So OneLake, as Arun said, is the OneDrive for data. And it just shows up, just like there is a OneDrive showing up with Office, there is OneLake showing up with Fabric. There's only one Fabric for the entire organization, and there is only one OneLake for the entire organization. You cannot buy another OneLake. You cannot have two OneLakes. It just doesn't work. Two OneLakes. And then, just like Excel, Word, PowerPoint will automatically store their data inside OneDrive, or the documents inside OneDrive, all the workloads of Fabric will store their data inside OneLake automatically. And it's a SaaS data lake. It automatically scales. It will provision under the cover as many storage accounts as needed. You never have to buy another storage account in your life and provision it and configure it. It just scales itself. It's multi-region. Every time you put data inside it, it will automatically index the data for you. You can assign MIP label, the Microsoft Information Protection labels that you put on your documents in Office. Same labels work on the data inside OneLake. So you can say, hey, this data warehouse is highly confidential, full-time employees only, just like you do it on your documents. And because Fabric will also compute the lineage between the items, if you create a report on top of the data warehouse, well, that report automatically will inherit the same label. Highly confidential. If you try to export the data from the report into Excel, Excel will become highly confidential, full-time employee only as well. So just complete chain of custody being maintained by OneLake. And then, of course, we can scan the data for PII and can put policies of what to do when it encounters violations. Sharing is just exactly the same way you share in OneDrive, even the same UI. Compliance, governance, all taken care of by OneLake. So OneLake is the one place for all your data, all your users, all your applications. But it's a bit more than that. It's not only where the data sits, it's also how the data is stored. And this is where we get to the one copy principle. So you see, Fabric comes with a lot of very fantastic compute engines. You have Spark if you want to do data engineering or data science. You have the MPP data warehousing engine for transactional data warehousing. You have the KQL engine, which is just awesome when you have to deal with telemetry, with event processing. All of the Microsoft Cloud services store all the telemetry in the KQL database. It holds exabytes of data. The scalability is amazing. And of course, you have analysis services, which is the backbone of Power BI, where you have all the semantic models, matrix definitions, and so forth. So all of that is part of Fabric, and all of those engines are storing the data into OneLake. And not only that they store the data into OneLake, they store the data in exactly the same format, using the Delta Parquet format, an open source format that is highly documented and means that there's no more proprietary formats inside Fabric. All the data is always stored in an open format, and it's the same format. And what it really means is that when one compute engine stores the data in OneLake, all the other compute engines can instantly use the same data without having to copy it or to move it or to import it or to export it. You don't have to load the data anymore from the lake into the data warehouse. You don't have to import the data from the data warehouse into Power BI. All of that is gone. All these verbs are disappearing. Everything becomes so much simpler when one copy can do everything across all the computes, across all the scenarios. So to get a feel for the power of this one copy principle, I'm going to invite Justyna to join me on stage, and we're going to build something a bit different, something with real time.
We are. Awesome. Thank you, Amir. All right, let's play the demo. Now. OK, so let's take a look at how we can leverage one copy of data across all of the different Fabric workloads. And we're going to be looking at a real-time scenario. We're going to be looking at some real-time traffic analytics. OK, so let's get started by creating a new event stream item. All I have to do is give it a name, and I'm immediately transported to the authoring experience. So let's start by configuring our source. We're going to use Azure Event Hub as the source, and that's going to stream all of our toll booth data. And as soon as I configure this, I can get an instant preview of the data that's streaming.
And it's always live.
Always live, that's right. OK, so for my destination, I'm going to connect to an existing lakehouse in Fabric. And this is going to, again, stream my raw data into a Delta table in OneLake. I'm also going to create a second table. In this case, I actually want to get in some aggregated metrics. And here I can navigate over to the event processor UI. And I can actually have a low-code authoring experience over here for doing some transformations. For example, doing a count of vehicles across a tumbling window. OK. So
this is going to be stored in the same lakehouse?
it is. It is going to be stored in the same lakehouse. So there we go. We can see our newly created Delta tables in the lakehouse. And now all of the Fabric engines can just make use of this data. So let's start with maybe enriching our data with a forecast. We're going to use Spark for that. And I can very easily, just from this lakehouse experience, create a new notebook. I'm instantly navigated, and I can just drag and drop my table directly into the notebook experience. I get a code snippet, I can run it, and things just start to run instantly, thanks to the Spark
No more waiting minutes for the cluster to deploy.
Exactly. It's just all instant. It's SaaS. We can see our table. We get some summary statistics. And there we go. We've built our forecasting model.
That was so fast.
Very, very, very quick, yes. So we have some exploratory analysis that we're doing over here. We're going to do some time series decomposition, get the data ready for modeling. I'm going to go ahead and actually now train my machine learning model using a popular ML library. And all of this data is going to land back enriched into OneLake. And I can even build a Power BI report on top of this data and visualize it directly inside the notebook.
So Power BI directly inside the notebook.
Yeah,
That's
and just
awesome.
like Spark, it is working directly on top of the data in OneLake. All right, so now let's go ahead and navigate back into our lakehouse. We can see our newly enriched table. But it's not just Spark that can work on top of the data in OneLake. We actually have a full-blown enterprise data warehouse experience as well. And all I have to do is just navigate over to the SQL endpoint. By the way, this is fully built into the lakehouse. I didn't have to do anything to configure this.
So no need to define tables or even define the data warehouse itself.
Exactly. And let's maybe go and write some queries now, right? So let's go ahead and see how many events we've been able to stream in so far. And running this, just doing a count on our table, we can see we already have 14 million events that are streaming.
But they're constantly adding more through the real-time feed, right?
Yeah, exactly. So let's actually rerun the query, and we can see that this count is just increasing in real time.
So it's always live.
Always live. OK, so now let's go ahead and do something else. Now let's actually try and query that table we just created using Spark. So there you go. We can see SQL is just able to seamlessly work on top of that same data that was just written by Spark directly on top of the same lakehouse. OK, but now we have real-time data, right? So maybe we want to do some real-time alerting as well. So a great tool for that is Data Activator, which lets us detect changes in our data. And over here, you can see in the Data Activator UI, we've already connected to our data in OneLake. We can see it streaming in across all of the different toll booths. And what I want to do is I actually want to set up an alert whenever we see a spike in the count of vehicles across any of the toll booths. So let's go ahead and maybe set something up like whenever we see more than 50 cars. 50 sounds good. And what's cool here is I can actually see in real time how many times this event would have been triggered in the past historical data. Now this is still looking a little bit busy, I think, right? So let's actually up this up to something.
60.
OK, yeah, there we go, 60. Great idea, Amir. OK, so let's go ahead and actually set up our action now. We're going to send ourselves a team message whenever we see this high vehicle count. And what's cool is directly from the UI, I can just test this out. So let's go ahead and jump into Teams. We can see we have a message waiting for us from Data Activator, letting us know that there was a spike in, it looks like toll booth 2 in terms of the vehicle count. So there you have it. You can see how easily you can work with one copy of data, not just with your batch data, but even your real-time event streams. So with one copy of data, whether you're working in something like Spark, whether you're using data warehousing with SQL, Power BI, real-time with Data Activator, having that one copy just makes this project, the end-to-end data project, so simple.
Think about how much we save here in terms of time, in just to move the data around, just to copy it, just to import and export. All of that is gone. This project is so much simpler and cheaper. You just spend much less compute in order to, when you eliminate all these kind of operations. And it's all possible because we standardized on a single format, and that format is Delta Parquet, and that actually was very intentional. And that's because we know a lot of you have invested in Azure Databricks, and Azure Databricks is also standardizing on Delta Parquet, and that means that Azure Databricks and Fabric are completely compatible with each other, which is just awesome. What it means is that Azure Databricks can read and write the data in OneLake, because for Azure Databricks, OneLake looks exactly like ADLS Gen 2, the same API, completely compatible. So Databricks just works instantly with OneLake, and the other way around is also true. Fabric can instantly work with the data Databricks has processed without having to import the data, and that's because we're using the shortcut mechanism. So let's talk about shortcuts, which are so important. So we have all these workloads, and we have OneLake, and we want to have OneLake have a lot of data, but let's face it, OneLake is new. We just GA'd it today. All the data in the world is somewhere else. Now we could have told you, hey guys, just start migrating your data, copying your data into OneLake. But of course, we don't like copying data. We like the one copy principle. So I said, instead of that, let's just allow you to create shortcuts. Shortcuts are the same shortcuts you have on your desktop, just pointers to files and folders. Just point to the existing storage system that you have where your data is, and that data will instantly become part of OneLake without any data movement or data duplication. OneLake will point to the data that you have in Azure, in ADLS. It will point to and can work with the data you have in AWS S3. It can work with the data that you have in Google Storage and with Dataverse data instantly without copying the data. So OneLake now expands itself to all the existing storage systems without duplication, not just the storage systems that is in Azure, but storage systems that are everywhere. OneLake is the OneLake for all your data, for all your users, for all your applications, for all your regions, for all your clouds. OneLake is a multi-cloud system. So that's kind of awesome, right? But there's a limitation here. Because this can only work when the data is stored in a format that Fabric can read. So it's great when it's 𝗦𝗲𝗸𝗀𝗁𝗀 file. It's great when it's CSV. It's great when it's PDF. All sort of image. That's great. But there's a whole lot of data that we really care about that is not stored in that open format. And that's typically data that is locked in databases. So databases are notoriously bad at, they store the data in their own proprietary format. They don't give you access to their files. You have to go through the database engine to extract data. We want to break that lockdown. So what we do is we are incredibly excited today to reveal that mirroring, a new capability of Fabric, is going into private preview. And that is super exciting. Because what we do with mirroring, we're trying to achieve the same benefits that you get with shortcuts, with just point to data and just there in OneLake. We're trying to do it with data that is locked behind databases. And the way mirroring works is it connects to the database. It's a couple of clicks. We're going to see it soon in the demo. Just a couple of clicks, you connect the database, and then the mirroring mechanisms start creating an image, a reflection of that database inside OneLake, and maintain that reflection always up to date at real time, instantly. It's so easy to create that kind of reflection. And once the data is in OneLake, the reflection is in OneLake, it is stored in the same 𝗦𝗲𝗸𝗀𝗁𝗀 format. That means that everything in Fabric just lights up on top of that reflection. So you can do data science, and you can do data integration, and you can do data engineering. You can run SQL queries, and you can do Power BI directly on top of it with the same benefit. So once the mirror is in the lake, everything just works, and it works super fast. And you can actually spend a lot of money on sending queries to those other databases, because now Power BI, for example, can work so much faster in a blistering speed against the mirror in the lake. So now we have mirroring, and we have the shortcuts, which allows us to really work with data wherever it is, and it all just shows up in OneLake. So to see mirroring and shortcuts in action, Justyna.
Yes, all right, so let's go and roll the demo. Okay, so we've already seen how you can easily work with one copy of data across all of your different Fabric workloads. But you don't always want to copy the data around. You don't want to manage these complex ETL flows. You just want to build on top of your existing investments. All right, and so what we're going to do over here is we're going to look at a company called Contoso Outdoors, very important company. They manage their data across many different disparate data systems, right? So we've got data in Snowflake, just our customer loyalty data. We've got some data in Databricks, our sales data. We manage our customer support tickets in Dataverse, Cosmos DB for retail order processing, and finally Amazon S3 for our product portfolio. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and jump back into Fabric, and we're going to create a new lakehouse that's going to access all of these different data sources in a unified way. And we're going to start with Databricks. So to get access to our Databricks data, we're going to go ahead and create a new shortcut. And since the data is already in Delta Lake format, this is super simple. I'm just going to go ahead and configure my shortcut over here, and I can instantly get access to the data, to all the tables directly in my lakehouse with no data movement.
No duplication.
No duplication.
It's always up to date.
Always up to date. Now we're going to do the same thing with our Dataverse data as well as our Amazon S3 data. And all of this data is now available in the lakehouse, not just tables, but also unstructured files. For example, our images from our product catalog, as well as our customer support documentation.
Because it's a data lake. It can hold any kind of
Exactly. So now Fabric can build solutions on top of it, but also other services. For example, Azure AI Studio that will work on top of OneLake. OK, so now let's go ahead and connect our data in Snowflake and Cosmos DB. And for this, we're going to use the awesome new mirroring capabilities. So with DB mirroring, all I have to do is basically create a mirror database, and then this data is going to be instantly reflected out of Snowflake into Fabric in the Delta Lake format in OneLake. And Fabric is going to go ahead and keep all of this data in sync with no ETL.
No ETL, no scheduling, no maintenance. It just handles itself.
It works. And now all of my Fabric workloads can just work on top of that data. Now here, we're going to do the same thing with Cosmos DB. So again, we're going to reflect all the Cosmos DB data into OneLake in the Delta format. And now, if we jump back into our lakehouse, we can see all of that data is now accessible to us in a matter of minutes, right? And now I can start using all of the different Fabric experiences on top of it. So let's actually go over and navigate to our SQL endpoint. We're going to write a query. And in this single query, we're going to join across all 5 of these different sources across clouds, basically.
Cross-cloud queries, just like that.
Exactly. So there you go. You see a unified view. But let's actually jump into the lineage view to get an even more interesting view over here. So here we can see our lakehouse, and we can see it's accessing data from Databricks, Amazon S3, Dataverse, Snowflake, Cosmos DB. And we can see all of the downstream artifacts that are being created as well. So over here, for example, we're creating a notebook and an experiment that's going to do inventory forecasting for us. And we also have some BI. We're building a Power BI report. And why don't we actually jump into this Power BI report and take a look? So here we go. We have our customer loyalty program, a report over here. And this is working in direct lake mode, right? So no data was copied. Power BI is working on top of the data lake, which is blazing fast speeds as I'm slicing and dicing the data.
Direct lake mode just works against all the sources, including Snowflake, including Cosmos DB, everything.
Absolutely. And again, if it's one copy of data, so things like sensitivity labels are just automatically propagated through all of the different artifacts. But let's actually go ahead and navigate over to the built-in Purview Hub to get an even more comprehensive view of our data assets. So here you go. You can see our sensitivity labels. You can see endorsements. You can see all of your usage metrics across all of your data assets, just making it super simple to just manage your end-to-end data estate.
So complete governance.
Absolutely. Just built in.
Pretty amazing. Thank you so
all
much,
right,
Justyna.
thank you, everyone.
So that's pretty amazing how easy it is to bring all the data wherever it is to be part of OneLake. We don't ask you to copy the data. We don't ask you to migrate the data. We will work with whatever data you have everywhere. We start with Cosmos DB. The mirroring will start with Cosmos DB and with SQL Server. And with Snowflake, we are going to add MongoDB soon, and then the rest of the databases in the world will come. Now, we created all this data in OneLake, and now we want to the whole purpose of collecting all this data is to allow the business to make better decisions, to be optimal. And this is really where this third pillar comes in, where we have this amazing connecting tissue between Fabric and Office 365. The Fabric data, we don't ask the users of Office 365 to come to us to get the data. We bring the data to them, whether they're working inside Teams, whether they're working inside Excel, whether they're working inside PowerPoint, they always get the data. They always have the latest data, and it's just in the best place possible. We'll see some pretty cool experiences. Let's have Pat come back on stage, and you're going to walk us through. And you're going to see the very beginning. We're going to look at the demo of how Fabric data shows up in Teams, right?
Exactly. Let's take a look. All right, so we're going to see how we've deeply integrated all of your data from Microsoft Fabric directly in your Office experiences. And so we can run the demo here. There we go. All right, so I'm inside of Teams, and I have one of my Fabric workspaces open. And you can see all of the different artifacts from this workspace are available one click away inside of Teams. It's a great place for me to be able to find things and collaborate without having to leave the flow of my work. But if I navigate over to the OneLake Data Hub, I can see all of the best data my organization has available to me, and so can everybody else in my organization. So if I'm trying to do a new analytics project, I have one source to go to find the certified, promoted, all the best data to use. I can open up one of these data sets, the sales lakehouse, and I can see the description, the tables in the data, but also all the related artifacts that are connected to it. So let's open this sales forecast. And now I have a fully interactive report right inside of Teams. I didn't have to leave my flow of work, super easy to use. But we can do even more. So we've integrated Data Activator inside of Power BI, so now I can set alerts right on top of my data, again, without even leaving Teams. So let's set a threshold, say 80,000, so if my forecast goes up, I'm going to get a new notification. And again, that's going to be delivered to me right inside of Teams. You saw that in Justyna's demo. But we can do even more. What if I want to create a PowerPoint presentation to present this information? Just with one click, I can create a new PowerPoint and start picking just specific charts from all my different reports and adding them in there. So I have my line chart. Let's add this table here. and I can lay them out just like I like to really make a data-driven presentation.
And it's not a bitmap, it's live data.
Exactly, it's all connected, so as the data changes, it updates. I love this because it's no more, jockeying different PowerPoints and updating data every time something changes. Presentation mode, it's all fully interactive. Again, a great way for data-driven presentations. But now let's switch to Excel. We've also made all of your Fabric data available one click away inside of Excel. So I can find the same sales lakehouse I just saw in the Data Hub, because the Data Hub is now here in Excel. And I want to import some of that data. So I'm going to pick the table and the columns, and I can create a new Excel table. All that security and lineage all is flowing through. And the best part is it's all refreshable. It's not actually a copy, no more data silos. It's just a table, but it's fully refreshable. It's connected back to Fabric. And that means I can use all of my favorite Excel features. I can create a pivot chart, a pivot table, just drag and drop. So me and everybody in my organization that knows how to work with Excel can connect to all of our Fabric data. So as you've seen, if you put your data into Fabric, it's now available to all your business users through everywhere inside of Office. It's just a great way to drive connected productivity without duplicating data.
That's amazing. We typically talk about ROI on system, and most systems will tell you that the investment, the cost of building the system is small, but with Fabric, we say not only that it's so easy to build a system, but the return, because all your users just get the data inside Fabric. So that actually takes us to the next phase of how easy it is to work with Fabric. And this is where we get into the last pillar here, which is the AI-powered. And what we're going to start doing today, we're going to open up our public preview of the CoPilot. And we're announcing the CoPilot for Microsoft Fabric. You're not going to get it all together today. We're going to roll it out gradually in the coming months. So some of you get it, some of you will have to wait. But CoPilot in Microsoft Fabric. And that's actually amazing, because the CoPilot makes the entire journey of the data, from preparing the data to getting data engineering or data science with building predictive models, all the way to the business users who are looking for insights, just make it so much easier. It's like having an expert sitting next to you. So Patrick, we're going to go through that journey, right? We're going to start with preparing the data.
So this is super fun. I mean, working with CoPilot in your data completely transforms how you build data projects. And we're going to do this whole journey. So let's go ahead and take a look. All right, so I'm going to start in Data Factory, and I have some data that I want to prepare, and I'm going to use the power of generative AI to do so. So I've got some e-bike rental data, so like start stations, end stations, when the trip started, when the trip ended, and I need to prepare this for some of my analysis. Now I could use the UI in Power Query to do so, but I'd rather use use CoPilot because it's much easier. So what I'm going to do is just start by asking a question here. And I'm going to ask for the duration of trips. There's a start date and an end date. And just by asking for the duration, CoPilot's smart enough to look in the table and give me the calculation between start and end. I didn't even have to ask for those specific columns. It just built that calculation for me. I can do simple stuff as well, like just asking to rename a column. So let's rename that column I just created. But now I can do something even more complicated. Let's ask for some grouping of the durations to be able to slice and dice in my report. And CoPilot used its intelligence to say, hey, a short trip is under 10 minutes, a long trip is over 20 minutes. So it's using its intelligence and, again, building that transformation for me. Now I have the temperature in Fahrenheit, the time of the trip. Maybe I want to ask to convert that to Celsius. Now, again, CoPilot has knowledge of what that formula is. It just applied it for me. And I can do so. This is really cool here. I'm going to ask to filter out the trips on rainy days. There's a precipitation column in the data. CoPilot's smart enough to know that rainy days had precipitation, so it filters only to days with no precipitation. This is really intelligent, right? And we can do even more. Let's switch back to the diagram view here. And I've got multiple tables of data, and maybe I want to join them together. So I'm just going to ask CoPilot to create a new query that joins some of this data, maybe my members and my trips, because I have member details for each person that rented a bike. And automatically, CoPilot saw there was a matching column, and it built the join for me. And now I can use the UI to kind of pick which specific columns I want. And it's all multimodal, right? So I can rename things manually, or I could kind of work with these steps manually. So it's all kind of just this really fluid experience. Now I'm going to ask for one more query here where I want some bike statistics. And I'm going to ask for group bys from the bike ID column. CoPilot joined two tables together, built all the group bys, and now I have like a cool statistics table just like that. So it's transforming working with my data, just asking for what I'm looking for, and CoPilot's building these formulas for me. Super cool.
Yeah, it's just think about how much time you can save yourself on building all these transformations, all these preparations. It's just like having a consultant that is sitting next to you and just give them I would like to do this, I'd like to do that, and just build it for you. So that was preparing the data. Now let's talk about some data science.
Exactly. Now I'm going to give a confession here. I am not a particularly proficient Python coder, and so I got CoPilot, and we're going to see how this actually accelerated my career to now I have some kind of basic Python capabilities, and you're going to see what I was able to build using CoPilot in data science. So let's take a look at this demo here. So we've taken the same data we were just working with, but now I've loaded it into a notebook, and I've created a couple data frames here for my trips. And I could come in here and start coding on my own, but like I said, I'm not a particularly proficient Python coder, so I'm going to ask CoPilot for some help. And so the first thing I'm going to do, let's make a little space here, I'm going to ask to get started, and I'm going to get some suggested visualizations of my data from CoPilot. So I'm going to say, go look at this data frame and tell me what I might be able to do with it. Now it's given me a bunch of different suggestions based on my data, and it's actually described my data a little bit to me. And I can just ask for any of these suggestions and say, hey, help me build some code to go do any of these. So I'm going to start by asking for a column chart, looking at the number of trips by start station. And automatically, CoPilot has generated that code, and I can go insert it into the notebook. I can look at the code and go ahead and run it. And so I didn't have to know how to write that code. I just asked for what I was looking for, and now I have this beautiful visualization here that helps me understand the shape of my data. Now, I'm going to go a little further here. I'm going to ask it suggested a heat map, so I'm going to ask for the heat map it suggested. And I want to see a heat map of trip duration by start and end station. So I can see, maybe where bikes are starting, where they're ending. Again, it's giving me that code. I can look at it here and just hit run. And now it's going to give me this beautiful heat map that's fully interactive. I can zoom in, zoom out. This is delightful for me as a user. I mean, when this popped up, I was like, oh, this is so cool. And there's actually some outliers in the data. It turns out there's longer trips starting from San Jose State University, of all things, right? But I can play with that data. And again, you can see it's really fluid to just ask for what I'm looking for, get this code generated for me. The task pane's great, but I'd really like to work just in the canvas here. I can do that as well, just by typing %% code. I can now just ask for what I want. And now I'm going to do something a little more complicated. I'm going to ask for a new forecast. I wanted to use the Profit forecasting library from Facebook. I never used this before. And I'm going to describe the output I want the table to come in. So it's actually doing a couple group bys along the way. And it generated some pretty complicated code.
A lot of code.
I would never know how to do this on my own. I had to shape the data. I actually had to kind of iterate through things multiple times to get it to take in all these additional factors I wanted it to account for. But now it's generated that forecast for me. So again, I can just ask for, hey, let's see a visualization of this forecast, see a line chart of it. And again, it's giving me the code, so now I can see, get an idea of what the forecast data that's been generated. And finally, I'm going to ask CoPilot to give me some code to just write that data back to the lakehouse, because now it's in that one copy, and we can use it in all the other workloads that we have. This is mind-blowing in terms of up-leveling my skill. It's kind of turned me into a data scientist overnight.
Yeah, it's just not only saved us, whoever knows how to write Python, not only save you time, but those who don't know how to write Python, like if you're a Power BI user, well, it's a great way to learn how to do that. Well, talking about Power BI, we're talking about now maybe the most anticipated feature of all Fabric, which is the CoPilot for Power BI.
Yeah, CoPilot in Power BI is super exciting. We've been working super hard on it. Can't wait for it to start rolling out this week. Let's take a look at now using Power BI to build a report on all this data we've prepped and then this forecast that we've generated. So let's go ahead and take a look. All right. So I'm back in my Contoso outdoor bike rentals workspace, and I've got all this data that we've prepped together. And I want to create a new report, and I'm going to use CoPilot to do so. So let's click New Report. Obviously, I could drag and drop and start on my own, but using CoPilot's way more fun. So I'm going to open the CoPilot task pane, and I'm going to ask CoPilot for some suggestions of different report pages I might want to build. It's going to look at my data. It sees all the different things I have in the schema, and it's suggesting, in fact, it suggested one of the pages to look at the trip forecast so we can optimize where our bikes are. Just by submitting that prompt to CoPilot, it builds this beautiful report page for me.
I wouldn't know how to build something so
exactly.
beautiful.
I mean, it's a great starting point. And so, might not have everything I want in it, but oh my, it's beautiful. It saves me a bunch of time. And it's fully, multimodal. So now I can use this as my starting point, and I can start dragging and dropping and configuring this for my needs. Maybe I want to bring the number of historical trips so I can compare it to the forecast and see the overall shape. Super easy to use. Let's ask for another page. This time I'm going to ask for trip statistics and station status, right? Because it's kind of interesting to look at our different start stations and end stations. And again, another beautiful page. It's included some slicers, so I can slice and dice by city. I've got this map, so I can zoom in and zoom out on where the trips are starting. And there's this really interesting trend. You can see that people are renting bikes in the morning for the morning rush hour and the afternoon for the afternoon rush hour. But I want to do some analytics here, so let's drag and drop the average trip duration. This is based on real data. It's real data. Turns out there's this big spike at 2 a.m. This is kind of interesting. What's happening at 2 a.m.? I guess maybe the bars are letting out. So I can cross-highlight And if I look over, I see that it turns out like university, San Jose State University, you saw that earlier.
Can you ask the Copilot?
Yeah, exactly. I don't, I have a suspicion here, but this is really cool. We've built in the ability to ask Copilot questions about data in the report. So I can come here and say, ask, which stations have the highest percentage of long trips? And that data is kind of buried in the report. There's a little bit of math needed. But Copilot's going to look at the data, and it built this calculation for me on the fly and gave me an answer right here. So I can see, indeed, University in Emerson. There's some stuff in Palo Alto, so it kind of confirms my suspicion. Way easier than exporting it to Excel and doing all this manipulation manually. Now I'm going to do one more thing here. I'm going to add a new visualization to the page. This is our first Copilot-powered visualization. And what it allows me to do is ask Copilot with a prompt, and it's going to look at the data in the report and build a narrative summary that's included in my report. So I gave it a prompt, look at 5 bullets about station status. It's given me my 5 bullets with interesting facts about the data. Everything is cited, so I can hover and see where Copilot's taking the data from, so I can kind of double check its math if I'm not confident. And it's now built in, it'll update as the data changes. So as you've seen, we started from data prep. I could just ask for what I wanted. I moved to data science and up-leveled my skills to be able to build a forecast. And now to Power BI, all with Copilot along the way, and we're bringing Copilot to every Fabric experience, which, like I said, is transformative for how all of us will work with data.
So what do you guys think? It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we are kind of at the end of the product tour. We've seen how Fabric is a complete data platform. We've seen how Fabric puts one lake at the center, make magical experiences and magical ways to bring all your data together. We've seen the integration with Office, which bring the data directly to users that are just working inside their favorite application, and we've seen the magic of the Copilots. So this is awesome. And the other thing is awesome, people are actually using it. They're building real things. And to talk about the actual usage of Fabric by customers and partners, I'm bringing in Jessica Hawk. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you, sir. Do I need the clicker?
You.
I think I need the clicker. Hi, guys. All right, I'm going to try to be as exciting as Amir is. It's not easy. So you heard Satya say at Build when we announced Fabric that it was probably the biggest thing we've done in data since SQL Server. You heard him say it again this morning when we announced the general availability. And everybody noticed, and people start using the service right away. So as Arun said earlier, we are at over 25,000 customers that are using the service, and I'm going to spend just a couple of minutes talking about what they're doing with it. So the customer momentum has been amazing. Oh, well, thank you. InSpark, everyone, InSpark. Let's talk about EY. So they're doing amazing things. They're a great partner of ours. They're a great customer of ours. The thing that I found so interesting is they were excited about the fact that we could finally get everybody on the same page when it comes to data. The most common problem, my sales number is right. No, my sales number is right. Actually, there is, when you have a one-lake experience, you have the one right number. So getting everybody aligned across the organization to know what the actual answer is, super important as part of their public preview experience. The Milliman quote is probably my favorite one of all time. I've seen a lot of customer quotes. Microsoft Fabric would have been our choice from the beginning had it only existed. Well, we're sorry, Tom. It didn't exist when you started on your data journey, but they're very excited about some of the work that they've been doing in the preview, and it's a lot of what you've already heard and seen today. It's really, wow, are we actually at the point where we might really, truly be able to democratize data access and have that unified experience? We've all been after this for decades. Now, flipping to partners, it's not just the customers, but it's the partners. And as you guys know, Microsoft has the largest, most incredible partner ecosystem on the planet, and we're super proud of the work that we do with all our partners. If I were just to go to the SI side of the world, the partners that help our customers get active on our new services, Accenture, Avanade, check out the stat there. If you're an SI, I used to be an SI, taking your consultants off customer projects to go learn something new, expensive, hard to do. They activated 3,000 people within their organization since we launched the public preview in May. Capgemini, my favorite French SI company, I speak French, they took it another step further. They actually went, I think it's over 10,000 that they've activated internally, but they also created a Fabric-specific assessment process and a certification process. And you guys know this. Customers want to understand that the people that are coming to work on these projects for them know what they're doing, and that they've got a repeatable, tested process for doing these projects. And so they've already invested in this program ahead of our GA today. Now flipping over to the ISV side of the house, and I see some Informatica folks back there. It's not just the SIs that help our customers do these projects, it's also the ISV ecosystem, because Arun's scary chart, it's real. Those are real products. And Microsoft, we're not trying to build every single thing. We love our ISV partners, and we know our customers love the ISV experiences that they're using them for. And so therefore, it's more important for us to activate the ISV ecosystem and give them a great plane to code against, so that when our customers are using Fabric, they can take advantage of a service like what Informatica is doing with Fabric, or what LSEG is doing with Fabric, and that will feel like an existing experience, and it doesn't feel like an add-on into what they're doing with Fabric. So I have to go because I'm at time. I want to make sure you guys see this last box. All of these boxes are important. We definitely want you to try it if you're not one of the 25,000 organizations already trying it. There's lots more sessions at Ignite, but check out what we're announcing today. We are announcing our first ever Microsoft Fabric Community Conference live in Las Vegas in March. We hope you guys will all go register. We've got 3 or 4 sessions at Ignite. We've got, 120, I think, in Vegas. So if you really want to get deep on the tech, come hang out with me and Arun. We'd love to see you in March. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of Ignite.
Zeiss Group has been focused on optics and optoelectronics for 177 years. We realize we sit on mountains of data at Zeiss. There's a lot of value that goes left behind.
Zeiss is still on a transformation path and a growth path, and this is where the organization comes in. To use the data, you need to bring it together. So you need to have a solid foundation where you build data governance in it.
𝗦𝗽𝗲 is our one and only enterprise data platform and data architecture, where we can have up to 80% of all Zeiss data. That is Gen AI integrated as well with all the amazing Azure capabilities that we can offer, so we can build a trusted platform.
We want to democratize the data and bring data to the people. So the last thing we are looking into for our 𝗦𝗲 photo is Microsoft Fabric.
Fabric is a very natural evolution for us in our data mesh journey, to have all the right services in one single place. You have Azure Data Factory, you have Power BI, you have Synapse, you have Azure Purview.
What we want to do with Fabric is to put it as a layer on top of our data mesh platform, that you can pull the data from various domains together, combine the data products without creating another copy of a copy, but you can control who has access on what.
It's important to have, I would say, a single point of truth where everybody in the organization knows, okay, this data set is reliable. We can adapt Microsoft Fabric based on 𝗦𝗲 without the need to maintain any infrastructure. This is really a boost for our company, for our organization, to reduce time to implement and to react faster. We are still at the early stage, but I believe Microsoft Fabric can unlock the full potential of our data efforts from the last years. This is also fostering a culture of innovation. People can quickly share ideas, quickly create prototypes and share it across their organization. Customers can benefit from this because new ideas will be created, maybe new services, everything what helps our end customers outside in their daily job.